Okay, okay, uh, uh, okay. Uh, Grade 11, unit to animal. This we have reached to ethology section. That means the science which studies about animal behavior. Therefore, animal behavior is studied in one branch of zoology, that's known as ethology. This is a science, ethology. Of course, it's very complicated and a cumbersome field. Studying animal behavior in their natural setting is very difficult and it requires huge investment, very uh, expensive science, of course. Therefore, it's fieldwork. Most of the study is fieldwork. Therefore, this animal behavior is studied under the branch of zoology known as ethology, and therefore, ethology is the science that studies about everything regarding animal behavior. Then, what is behavior? First, let's define behavior generally. What's behavior? Simple definition. Behavior is anything an animal does in response to a stimulus in its environment. Response. Response to a stimulus, change in the environment. Stimulus is defined as change in the environment. Which environment? The external as well as the internal environment. Internal environment means the body of the animal itself. External environment, everything external to the body of the animal. Therefore, it's response. Therefore, every response is known as behavior. Therefore, behavior is anything an animal does, any activity by an animal in response to a stimulus in its environment. And or you can also define it just like this: all the ways in which animals interact with each other and with their environment, both internal and external environment. And this is simple definition for behavior. And animals possess different behaviors and behavioral patterns that are crucial to survival. Without the appropriate behavior in an animal, it's difficult to survive in a particular ecosystem. Therefore, part of survival mechanism of all animals is the complex behavior, from simple to complex behavior or behavior patterns. Therefore, animals possess different behaviors and behavioral patterns that are crucial to survival. Of course, without these behaviors, they can't, of course, survive. And types of innate, now when we are seeing behavior is, we say behavior is, animal behavior is adaptive. That means it has adaptive value. They have developed, it is evolving, of course. They have developed in course of evolution. It of course also changes or evolves with changes in the environment. Therefore, when it comes to types of animal behavior, the two major categories are innate or inherent behavior. Innate or inherent behavior. The second category is learned behavior or acquired behavior. After the animal comes to this world, learns from his environment, from parents, and from the surrounding. The learning occurs after the animal comes to this planet, after being born. Innate behavior is genetically fixed. Therefore, we shall see some examples and types of both of these types of behaviors. First, innate or inherent behavior. This type of behavior, innate behavior, is inborn. An animal is born with it. This means the other criteria is innate behavior is genetically fixed or it is inherited. Babies get it from their parents, and it passes from one generation to the next generation through genetics or DNA. Innate behavior is genetically fixed or strong genetic component it has. And the other, it is independent of experience. It is not obtained, it is not acquired, it is not learned. Experience is learning. Trial and error learning. Experience refers to the behaviors that are obtained through learning. Therefore, it is independent of experience, previous experience. No, this is the quality of learned behavior. Therefore, innate behaviors are independent of exercise or previous exercise. And innate behavior have a strong genetic component. I have said it already. Innate behavior is species specific, or more formally, con-specific. We say con-specific. It's not a different terminology. It means species specific. One species has an innate behavior that is similar or identical to all members of that species. It is species specific. It is intrinsic. It is intrinsic. It is present even. It is intrinsic means it is present even if the animal is raised on its own, away from its parents, without parents around. The animal can practice because it is genetically fixed. It is stereotypical. Innate behaviors are known as stereotypical. That means their innate behaviors are done in the same way each time. An animal does that innate behavior the same way. Each time it practices that innate behavior, it does it in the same way. No variation. All members of the species do it in the same way. That is typical behavior of innate behaviors. Of course, therefore, these are the descriptions for innate behavior. Innate behavior could be of three major types. We can see innate behaviors into three major categories. The first one, reflex or simple reflex. The second, instinctive behavior. The third, orientation behavior, which of course involves innate behavior, which is based on movement of the organism. Movement, very important. When it comes to simple reflex, our body performs many actions that are not under our control. And it's not under our control. Just the nervous system of our body detects a stimuli and responds even before we become aware of them. Reflex action or reflex is one such response of our body, which is automatic, autonomic, not conscious, or it is unconscious, of course, response to stimuli, rapid response to stimuli. These are the criteria. A simple reflex, also known as monosynaptic reflex, is an automatic and rapid response to a stimulus that occurs without conscious thought, involving a direct pathway between sensory and motor neurons. This is known as the pathway. The pathway. Sense organs detect the stimuli. The stimulus goes through sensory neurons to the central nervous system, spinal cord or brain. Then through motor neurons, message comes to effector organs like muscle and gland. This is a circuit which is known as reflex arc. Reflex arc. Therefore, involves a direct pathway between sensory and motor neuron. This direct pathway takes very short, a matter of fraction of minute or micro minutes or nano minutes before we respond to a stimulus. It is the simplest form of innate behavior. Of course, yes, reflex is the simplest form of innate behavior, it is said. Example, for example, blinking reflex. When something is thrown at your eyes, you blink. That's automatic response, rapid response. Of course, reflexes are most reflexes are to protect your body from danger or damage. Moving your hand from something hot, that is knee-jerk reflex. That is also another pupil reflex. When you come to bright light room from dark room, or from bright light room to dark room, the pupil, without knowing it is doing it, the pupil either widens or narrows in order to limit the amount of light that goes to the retina, because excess light can damage your retina, the screen. And therefore, these are some reflexes even observed in humans also. When it comes to the reflex arc, the circuit, the network through which reflex action occurs. Therefore, interconnected nerve cells, sensory neurons, central nervous system, then motor neurons. Sensory neurons are attached to sense organs, or sensory neurons by themselves become as the modified as receptors. So you have the diagram. Diagrammatically, we may represent as the spinal cord, the center of reflex. We represent it just like this network: sensory neurons, sense organ. Here, the sense organ depicted is, of course, a skin. Skin is multiple sense organ. It can detect temperature, cold or hot, touch, pressure, and many other. Therefore, it's multiple sense organ. Then the sensory neuron takes the information to the spinal cord. Inside the spinal cord, there are associative neurons or relay neurons which connect sensory neurons with motor neurons. Decision is made in the spinal cord, then the response comes through motor neuron to the effector organ. In this case, the effector organ is muscle. If you put your hand on hot object, these muscles contract in order to pull your hand away from the hot object so that you will not damage your hand or your fingers. Therefore, it's protection. This is known as a network, is known as reflex arc. Therefore, a reflex arc is composed of sense organ, sensory neuron, central nervous system, either spinal cord or brain, in this case spinal cord, then motor neuron, then effector organ, in this case muscle. When it comes to the second type of innate behavior, instinctive behavior, still these are genetic. Of course, they fulfill the criteria that innate behaviors reflect. Instinctive behaviors like simple reflex are innate responses, yes, to certain stimuli, executed without conscious thought or prior expressed. Yes, what makes instinctive behavior similar to simple reflex? They are innate. So we don't need an animal do not need previous experience. It occurs as the animal is born. No need of learning. They are genetically fixed. The difference is an instinct is a more complex pattern. It's not that rapid, short lasting, micro or nanosecond, not just like simple reflex take micro or nano fraction of a second it occurs. It's very rapid. In this case, a more complex pattern of innate behavior that may have several parts, steps, and may take weeks to complete. So it's not rapid. What makes it different from innate behavior is one, it's not rapid, it's complex, it's not simple. Instinct is simple, not simple, while reflex is simple, rapid response to a stimulus. And here shows the comparison of reflexes and instincts. First, simple reflex is simple automatic response, whereas instinct is complex innate behavior. Simple automatic innate behavior reflex, complex innate behavior instinct. Then reflexes are initiated by direct stimuli, like being burned by fire or something thrown at your eyes. You blink your eyes, direct stimuli, whereas instincts are stimulated by specific conditions or needs. For example, if the animal produces hormones for reproduction, those hormones initiate the need for reproduction. So the animal starts to perform those stepwise processes that lead to reproduction, like nest building, finding a mate, courtship, and then when they are paired, they go sexual intercourse, then laying eggs, incubating. All these are stepwise processes and complex that include many steps or many components, so that they are initiated not by direct stimuli, specific conditions or needs. Like, for example, environmental conditions, when the weather changes from dry to rainy season, some animals may bring about change in their behavior so that start to migrate long distance migration because of weather condition or because of reproduction. Some fish may migrate long distance for reproductive size to reach to reproductive size based on seasons. They do have seasonal cycles. Therefore, instinct is very complex, elaborate, stepwise, may have many components, and it's not initiated by direct stimuli. It needs specific conditions or needs to be stimulated. The third involves reflex involves a single simple action, whereas instinct involves multiple steps or behaviors, as I have told you earlier. Reflex largely unmodifiable. Reflex actions are not modifiable, and no any part of it is modified. They are performed as they are, strong, very strong. When it comes to instinct, instinct, instincts can be somewhat modified by experience. There are some parts, not that much, but some part of instinctive behavior may be modified. The other reflex purpose of reflex immediate protection from harm. Immediate protection from harm, whereas instinctive behaviors are used for survival, for reproduction, for social interaction. All these are instinctive behaviors. Examples. The last are given examples: blinking, sneezing, knee-jerk response. These are reflex actions. Instinctive behaviors. Nest building in birds is instinctive. It's elaborate, complex, and they have to bring the need. They have to first identify. They have to the environment, like seasonal change in the environment, and brings the need for reproduction. So hormones are produced. Then they start by building nests. Then after, there are other steps which follow the nest building activity. Therefore, elaborate spider web construction. These are instinctive, much more complex. You see. Therefore, these are simple comparison of reflex and instinct. I am sure you can clearly describe the differences between these two types of innate behaviors, and comparison. When we say, you have to tell what makes them similar. Both are genetically fixed, not learned. Otherwise, there are many differences. When it comes to examples of instinctive behaviors, I've told you this: nest building in birds, webbing by spiders, swimming in dolphins and other aquatic animals when they are swimming in the water, either for hunting their food or for courtship behavior. And the other is opening of mouths in cheeks of birds during feeding, when the mother brings food and they open their beaks in order to receive food from the mother's throat through her beaks. Therefore, this itself is instinctive. No one taught the chicks how to receive food from their moms. In some birds, some part of this behavior may be modified as it is instinctive, of course. The other is honeybees dancing. Honeybee dances to communicate about the source of nectar or water. When honeybees, after bringing nectar and water to the hive, they perform dances to the others in the hive in order to tell or communicate from where they brought the nectar, the distance, even the distance, and also the direction of the source from which they brought the nectar and water is transformed or communicated to the other bees in the hive, so that the other bees, by getting the information, also go to the source and fetch either nectar or water. This is dynamic, innate instinctive behavior in these social insects. The other is fixed action pattern, FAP, they call it, unchanged sequence of patterns triggered by a particular stimulus. There are some patterns of behavior, stepwise processes, which are highly genetically fixed, and they are given this name: fixed action patterns. Fixed action patterns, like when birds incubate their eggs, if the mother bird is sitting on the eggs to warm the eggs. If you uh, take away while she is not around the eggs, if you take away one egg and pull it outside of the nest, and when she comes and sees the egg, she have this pattern. This she pulls the egg by her beak and neck towards the nest. This behavior is common. Such behaviors are known as fixed action patterns. And the other is the third type of innate behavior is orientation behavior. Orientation, of course, this is related with movement. Our organisms move in response to stimuli, movement. Therefore, this includes taxis and kinesis plus uh, complex orientation behaviors known as navigation. It's not included in your textbook, of course. Navigation, very important. Complex, these are simple orientation behaviors, innate orientation behaviors. You have to add here. One is taxis. What is taxis? I will tell you. The other is kinesis. And the third, you have to add it, navigation. Navigation, which includes migration, long distance travel, complicated long distance travel, especially in migratory species, migratory insects, migratory birds. There are therefore taxis, kinesis, and navigation are types of orientation in animals, orientation behavior. All include movement. When it comes to these taxis, taxis means orientation of movement in relation to the source of stimulus. Source of stimulus. It is directional response. Directional response. When you say directional, the animal either moves towards the stimulus or away from the stimulus. Therefore, it's a response by movement into way towards the stimulus or away from the stimulus. Directional. Therefore, taxis is directional response. And taxis is often exhibited when the stimulus is light. This stimuli usually responsible to bring about tactic movement in animals. Light, heat, moisture, sound, chemicals. Therefore, these are the common stimuli for which the animal moves towards or away from the stimulus. And example, taxes. Taxes, the plural form of taxes. Taxes are classified or named based on the type of stimulus. When the stimulus is light, we call it phototaxis. Sorry for the X, make it S. Phototaxis. The second, tigmotaxis. It's touch. Response for touch. When you touch an animal, either it comes. Usually they go away because they may consider your touch as unfavorable, so that they may move away. Moving away is negative response. Moving towards the stimulus is positive response. Therefore, phototaxis, tigmotaxis, and chemotaxis, geotaxis, gravity. They respond to gravity. Chemotaxis, geotaxis, thermotaxis, temperature, and electrotaxis, electric current, non-damaging electric current. Of course, even the single-celled organism like amoeba can respond to non-damaging, very slight electric current. If you shock them by electric current, they move away from the electric current, showing negative electrotaxis. Based on the animal's response, taxes can be positive. As I have told you, taxes can be positive taxis, negative taxis. Positive refers to the fact that when the organism is stimulated by a particular stimulus, it moves towards the stimulus. Like if an animal is moving toward the sunlight, it is positive phototaxis. If it moves away from certain chemical, toxic chemical, it is negative chemotaxis. Therefore, these are terminologies, of course. For example, flagellate protozoans, those protozoa which have flagella of the genus Euglena move toward this light source, that is phototaxis. Since phototaxis refers to a response to light, and the organism is moving toward the stimulus. So it is positive. You are positive to phototaxis. Therefore, the Euglena is moving toward the sunlight. That is, the sunlight is the stimulus. So movement toward the stimulus is positive phototaxis in this case. When the second type of the orientation behavior, kinesis. This is non-directional change in activity in response to a stimulus. Non-directional. The organism is simply increasing activity, just moving here and there, no directional, no towards or away from the stimulus. Simply the increased activity uh, without a specific direction. Therefore, it is non-directional change in activity. Change in activity. It's not moving towards or away from the stimulus. Non-directional change in the activity in response to a stimulus. And a type of orientation behavior in relation to the strength or intensity. Therefore, for example, if you put head louse, head louse on sunlight, the sunlight is burning, so it's simply randomly moves here and there activity, but it is not moving away from the light. In the light there increased activity. If the intensity of the light is very much increased, its activity also increased, because the burning action of the light is very much stronger, so that they have to show kinesis, moving here and there, just by chance they may go to a safe environment. Otherwise, it is not directed or directional response. Um, Therefore, in kinesis, the stronger the intensity, the higher the rate of movement or kinetic movement. Kinesis, simple non-directional change in activity. You do have, of course, two types of kinesis, of course. Orthokinesis, this is not included in your book, of course. You have to know it. You have to know it. The two types of kinesis, this random and directional response. The first one, orthokinesis, this refers to the speed of movement depending upon the intensity of the stimulus. Slow or rapid movement in response to stimulus. This is, as we have described kinesis earlier, simply random movement here and there. Intensity of the stimulus determines the speed of the movement here in this case. When it comes to clinokinesis is turning, just involves essential random alteration of direction. Just from right to the left, it turns. From left to the right. From north to south or south. This is turning simply, not activity. Involves essential random alteration of direction. Slow or rapid turns of the organism in response to stimulus. Both are under kinesis, of course. Body activity. This body activity can be described as, this one is increased body activity, random movement. That one is turning its body. Turning. Its head was the south while it stayed in the north. When one stimulus comes, it may change this, reverse it, making the head in the north, south, and the tail in the south, or west east orientation turn. This is simply underlying the term turn, turning the body. That is known as clinokinesis. And the main difference between orthokinesis and clinokinesis is that orthokinesis is the slow or rapid movement of the organism in response to stimulus, whereas clinokinesis is the rapid or slow turns of the organism in response to stimulus. Turns that move, rapid or slow movement. This is turning, but they are included under kinesis. Example of kinesis: woodlouse and humidity-seeking behavior. You see, woodlouse, these are types of arthropods, insects, and they love or they favor to live in humid areas. far away from dry, sunny environment, barks of leaves, barks of trees. Cool, wet, humid environment is the most suitable environment for this woodlouse. If you take it from its humid environment and put it in an open sunlight, that woodlouse shows an increased activity. Oh, this is not my safe environment. So, by chance, if I may throw myself into this humid environment, she moves. Kinesis moves its body. Of course, it is not. It is clinokinesis. It is orthokinesis that the louse shows. Good louse shows orthokinesis. That means rapid. Sometimes slow. It becomes rapid when the heat is very much increased from the sun. So it is orthokinesis, of course. Still, it is kinesis, of course. Therefore, this is one typical example. The main difference between taxis and kinesis is taxis and kinesis. You see, the main difference between taxis and kinesis is that taxis is the directed movement, taxis, remember, of living organisms in response to particular stimulus. What direction? Either towards the stimulus or away from the stimulus, yes. Whereas kinesis is a random movement of living organisms. This random movement could be high, rapid, slow, or rapid movement here and there, or turning the body. Kinesis, orthokinesis, remember, random movement of living organisms. The other, as I have told you, this is not, of course, included in your text. They should have included, of course, navigational behavior, navigation, the third most complex and elaborate type of orientation behavior is navigational behavior, a more elaborate and complex behavior of animal movement that involves long distance seasonal migration, of course. True navigation is defined as the ability of an animal to return to its original location after displacement to a site in unfamiliar territory without access to familiar landmarks, goal emanating cues, or information about displacement. Even these navigation behaviors are subdivided into many different types. One is true navigation. In true navigation, much advanced birds, animals, they can, if they lose their destination, they can, if they are taken away from their environment because of bad weather, if they have moved to another place, when the environment becomes convenient, they can return. They can navigate back, and without missing their track, they can come back to their original place after long distance. That is through navigation, without having landmarks, familiar landmarks, without seeing landmarks. They do have mental map, of course, goal emanating cues. They don't reference. And there are some animals which use landmarks, including birds. Landmarks could be mountains, trees, forests, on the land. Oh, therefore, even this type of using landmark, navigation by using landmark is known as piloting. There are many birds use piloting, and therefore significantly use landmarks. And therefore, totally, these are navigational behaviors. And if you need further information on this, you are welcome, please. And the other portion is learned or acquired behavior.